With me is Robin Etherington of the Etherington Brothers.
Hello.
Can you just tell us a few things about the comics that you do and the graphic novels that you do?
Yeah, definitely. I've been working together with my brother Lorenzo, who's the artist, on graphic novels and comic book material for about the last 10 years. And we are probably best known for the kind of all-ages action, comedy, adventure series sort of stuff. Some people might have come across our work. We created a graphic novel called Monkey Nuts and Baggage. There's one called Long Gone Don, which is one of our most recent ones, along with Von Dugan, which is kind of a puzzle action adventure. There are ongoing series, I think, that probably most people would find us from now. We regularly appear in the Phoenix Weekly children's comic. And then outside of that, we've worked on Transformers and Star Wars, Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, a lot of franchise materials, from Angry Birds to Wallace and Gromit. So we've done quite a range of stuff, but the material that we produce together is always sort of, it's a comedy, action, adventure, big stories with big worlds, that sort of Pixar-inspired scope of these worlds should bleed way beyond the pages and way beyond the panels, and you should feel like there is always something happening around the corner to someone that you might not even ever meet, but you really want to meet because it could be possibly even better than the story you've just read. I don't know.
How did you said that you've been doing this for 10 years with your brother now. How did you sort of decide this is what you were going into, and especially with your brother, because obviously it's not always the thing that you'd go into.
Sibling rivalry, sibling confrontation, all of those good things. Well, I think we were quite lucky in as much as when we were younger, we were extremely excited by the same sort of comic stories. I mean, we were very influenced by our older brother. There is another brother who he introduced us to Asterix very, very young, and Tintin we got into, and then we found Calvin and Hobbes, and we'd already been reading The Beano and the Dandy and grown up on a lot of stuff. And we had a lot of shared passions for the way we wanted to tell stories. But we went off and did our own thing for years. And my brother actually trained as a fine artist. He went into furniture design, lots of crazy stuff like that. I went off as a snowboard instructor for many years. We didn't actually come back together till much, much later. And when we did, it was just the industry had changed. It was very, not staid is the right word, but at the end of the 80s into the early 90s, it was very dominated by the Marvel scene, and like the UK was doing a lot of reprints and a lot of imprint stuff, and it didn't really feel like there was much room for what we wanted to do, which was to bring something that was quite Eurocentric, extremely fun and kind of friendly and welcoming all ages, but could have that full colour vibrancy that possibly was lacking from a lot of the material that we felt we could have access to when we were a bit younger. Everything had changed in the 10 years we've been away, and so around about 2003 we decided to give it a go, and we began with advice from a bunch of great creators like Jeff Smith and guys like that. We began with Talking Animals comic. Really, it was to do something that wasn't seen as that popular because we felt like we needed to carve a niche.
Yeah.
And actually from there, that spawned a lot of the interest that we had later on with companies like Titan and stuff like that, who saw us and wanted to bring us on for the Madagascar work and the Kung Fu Panda work. And we just realised it was something that we really enjoyed, because the nice thing about a cast of animals or non-human characters in whatever form there is quite quickly the audience forgets what they're looking at if you never ever reference it. So it didn't matter what the characters were, what type of character they were, if the words coming out of their mouth were entirely a human experience. And it was such a simple awakening for us as creators that it meant that we could do visually vibrant, exciting, original worlds. But actually at the heart of it, they were human dilemmas and human stories being told. And we haven't found a better way to do it yet, so I don't think we're going to change it.
Well, why alter what's working?
Exactly.
And you've said about your influences, sort of, and I can see that sort of European Tintin, Asterix within the work that you do. But you have appeared sort of in this collected comics. How did you get into the collected comics and in the Dandy as well?
Oh, Dandy was an interesting one. That was one of those gigs where actually they had approached us multiple times to possibly do something with them. And I'd actually produced the comic strip for the Dandy with Warwick Johnson Cadwell a few years before. So we'd been talking to them, but we'd never had any time or opportunity. And it just was one of those perfect storms where one job finished, we had some time. They came to us, said, would you do something? We said, okay. And if something that would you like us to do to reimagine something you've already got, like Jamie Smart was doing with Desperate Dan at the time?
Yeah.
And they said, no, you can do whatever you want. And so we kind of battered a few ideas around and came up with this idea of a kind of a fantasy action comedy tale about 3 questing morons, basically, desperately looking for the gold and never quite getting what they need. And it was great because they gave us a real free hand to bring what our material to the pages of the Dandy, and it didn't have to be in a dandy format. It didn't have to be the dandy way of telling jokes. They were actually they were interested in what we were making, because the kind of books we were making were starting to get maybe a bit of traction, a bit more attention. Yeah. And it was a lovely experience. It's very rare. Like normally you're quite edited, but in that case they pretty much let us do what we wanted to do. And it was great fun. And then from that, the anthology world of comics opened up a bit more, and we would.
So it was from the Dandy.
Yeah, well, we'd already done some stuff with the DFC. At that point, the Phoenix wasn't even being mentioned, but our experience working in that, people knew that we could do short form, as in 1 page, or slightly longer serialized stuff, 3 pages weekly. They knew we could produce this material, and when the David Fickling comics and the David Fickling books and the Phoenix began to kind of get their act together and came chatting to people that they worked with and liked working with, we were very quickly able to say, we've got something for you, we'll give you something. And that became actually 2 things. That became both Long Gone Don and the Von Dugan puzzle series.
Right.
But we would produce less work over the year, because in the past we had always been literally chasing the deadline, and we would do 3 pages a week every single week, and it nearly killed us on multiple occasions.
I would imagine that.
Yeah, more my brother than me, I have to say. I feel for him a lot, but he just reined it in and said, no, we'll do 1 book at a time. They can serialise it, then we'll work on the next one, and then we'll bring that out. And the idea was roughly a book a year, and that's pretty much what we've hit. I think in the last 4 years of the Phoenix publishing, we've actually produced nearly 8 books worth of material. So.
Right. Your brother's a wreck, but
my brother is a physical, mental, and emotional wreck. But he's extremely proud because he's got another 8 books worth of material. So yeah, we like being in the anthology because it forces you to up your game quite considerably. There are some amazingly talented people working on the Phoenix, from the Jamie Smarts, Neil Camerons of this world, Robert Diaz, who was here this weekend. There are great creators constantly. Zach Simmons-Hearn. I mean, it just goes on and on. Gary Norfield. I mean, there's just so many. And the one thing they all have in common is that they all look at each other's work and go, oh, they did that, did they? And the next week, you see it on the pages. They've brought something extra special to their next strip, and then that bounces back on you. And
you have to up your game.
You have to up your game.
One.
You're not safely contained between 2 covers which you illustrated. You are trapped between other people's stories. And the fact is, if somebody read a Bunny versus Monkey strip or whatever, and they came out the back of that, and then they find you, and you're not bringing your A game, they'll skip over you to the next one they find and that they like. Now, most kids then go back and read everything, but the fact is, you never want to be the weak link. And I think that comic in the last 4 years has risen to such a point whereby there are no weak links, and everybody is trying to be something special, and it's unique. I don't think I'd ever really want to leave that part of this business, simply because it keeps you on your toes and it keeps you fresh.
It's like a friendly rivalry.
Yeah, and then someone comes in who you've never even heard of before. I saw a couple recently. Creators I'd never seen their work from, and it was absolutely amazing. It's like coming to a show like this, where you walk around and you're like, I don't know who half these people are, and they are making work that is every bit as good as the professionals that I work with and I talk to on a regular basis. That's the best thing about comics, is there's always someone behind you, nipping at your heels, making you raise your game, making you go out and read more and watch more and absorb more. And the anthology comic in the UK is the absolute pinnacle of that. It is It's the high watermark for creative competition, and it only serves to the good of the reader.
Yeah. Your brother obviously is the illustrator.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the ideas? Is it sort of the
old perennial question? How do you come up with your ideas? Well, I mean, we are inspired by a vast array of influences from, in my case, PlayStation games. I've always been a very keen gamer, and I've always loved it because, especially with emergent storytelling being what it is, the experience that you can have actually within the interactive media has changed radically over the last 15 years. And it influences me a lot. It makes me think about the way that I can engage the reader more, but through animation, through games, through book, through architecture, through other forms of art that my brother's a huge fan of the 1940s and 50s radio serials. You can find them all online now, and he just listens to these old horror stories and murder mysteries and all this stuff because it's all in the writing and it's all in the characterization, and it influences and informs. We try and take art tips from and art nods from all over the place. Although stuff like Asterix was a huge influence on us, our work should show evidence of other Euro design. It should show evidence of Japanese and Asian design. It should all be in there, but hopefully in a pot that you haven't seen before. But with the stories, we like casts. We like big casts of characters. We like stories where even your lead character never ever feels like the most special person on the page, because let's be honest, that's life. You might be the hero in your own mind, but you're probably not even the hero of your own story, and that is the guiding light for all of ours. No special powers, no easy get-outs. It is just wits and wisdom, will and hope and good fortune. And every problem should be surmountable, but not by the way the reader ever sees coming. And I think that's our kind of our watchword for all of our tales is there's sort of human stories without humans about sort of human dilemmas in a completely non-human world. And intelligence should prevail, or lack of it, whichever it is. I'm not sure.
And going back, you said that you got with your brother 10 years ago, decided to do this. Before you did that, obviously you said you were a snowboarding instructor. Where was the leap when you thought, I'm going to be...
Well, it was a wedding band, bizarrely. We were in a wedding band together. He was a DJ, I was a drummer, and we were doing quite a few gigs just in the summer, really. And we would do these weddings, never really advertising, just word of mouth. And quite quickly realised we were getting a lot of bookings because it was novel. And we loved working together. We loved sharing the creative experience and the celebration and the failure. It was easy to pick yourself up from a bad gig or whatever, but if there was someone there in your camp. I know we've both stood on our own artistically and creatively many times. I have always come from a position of collaboration. I was a musician for 10 years. And I always loved working into other creators and other musicians. They informed my work, and they pulled me up, much like we're talking about the anthology comic, in much the same way. But actually working together as a team of two is brilliant because no one is ever carrying the can. It's like you share the buck always, perpetually. If you have a bad day, the other person knows they've got to pick you up always. And as we move around the country and around the world doing shows and bringing our work to new people, sometimes, it can be hard work. It can be really hard work, but it is always infinitely easier when it is shared with another person. And we had all the fights it is possible for two brothers to have, or so we thought.
Right.
And what we realised was we're both capable of shouting and screaming at each other, and knowing that it is not a personal thing. It is just we are dealing with business, and sometimes it's stressful, and you get through that. But he is, I've worked with a lot of great people now, and he's just something special. And like the work we do together, we now speak our own language in terms of I don't have to imagine that he's going to bring something I haven't seen before. I know it, and I know that if he doesn't, he'll feel like he's let himself down. Likewise with my script and my storytelling. If I'm not giving him something that he hasn't had to do before, or a challenge that he hasn't seen, or an outcome that feels fresh, he'll call me on it, or he'll just look at me in a certain way that says do better. And so actually the sort of antagonism of siblings has formed a very creative partnership, because we try to outdo each other, and we try to bring out the best in each other, and hopefully it's still happening, and I think we're still feeling really inspired by it. So yeah, it's great fun.
Can always say anything to family.
You can say anything to family, which cuts both ways. It's a good and a bad thing, but yeah, you can say anything to family, and you also can't hide anything from them. When you are not doing well, and when it is difficult and it is tough, they see it in your face, and they know all your tells, and they hopefully stand up for you, which is particularly useful. But it has been a brilliant experience, and to be able to share it with my brother, these 10 years of work is absolutely amazing. And I really hope there's another 10 years coming, because I feel there is. So I don't think we're going anywhere.
No, definitely.
But we're enjoying the ride. It's great fun.
Nottingham Comic-Con that we're at today. Yes. Have you done any other Comic-Cons this year, or
this year? Have we done any others this year? No, I don't think we have. I think this year we've done a lot of book festivals. I think Thought Bubble was the last show that we did, but actually between this and that and the previous ones, it's been about 2.5 years where we kind of took ourselves out of it. Mainly because, not because we'd oversaturated on them, but I think because from a publishing point of view, we knew we weren't going to be bringing new books to the table for a while, because stuff was tied up and it wasn't going to be coming out, and we didn't want to keep turning up with the same stuff, because we felt like it was almost better for our fans not to be there. Which might sound completely illogical, but it certainly paid out today, because we've turned up with a table full of stuff that a lot of these people haven't been able to get our hands on, or if they have, they wanted to wait until they could get it signed. And that's what they're doing, and we're going to see it probably. We're definitely going to see it at Thought Bubble and moving through the other shows. That ability to bring something fresh each time, we always thought was really important. And we know that coming up over the next 2 years, we have a certain number of titles scheduled, and not just comics. We're going to be bringing illustrated novels to the table as well. So there'll be different stuff again coming in, which are they're comic related. And we know that we will have that material out now, so we feel confident to be able to say, all right, we're diving back into the con scene, and we'll be there hopefully throughout the coming years, all across the country. But this has been a fantastic show to start with for us, because it's just reminded us of all the reasons we love this business and we love this way of meeting your fans. It is unique and it's special, and it's been an amazing day.
And what future work have you got? Can you sell anything
about
it?
We can talk more about some of that stuff. So we've got the Long Gone Don adventure series in the Phoenix. We have basically a book coming out every year now, so it's coming. I'm working on book 5 at the moment, so the other 3 are done, and we're just releasing those in the Phoenix serialized, and then they get collected in book form. We're bringing those out. Lorenzo's Von Dugan Puzzle Adventure comic series, that is on book 6 now, I think, and that again will be coming out periodically. I have an illustrated novel series which is all based in the comic world, called Freaky and Fearless, which is going to be blowing people's minds from the 3rd of March next year, and that's going to be 2 books a year dropping, so that's an ongoing series. And we have a whole bunch of other stuff. God, I can't even remember half of it. There will be regular drops. My brother has got another one of his 600-page sketchbooks that will be kickstarted, I think maybe next year, but he's put together a good chunk of that book at the moment. He has an amazing project, which I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about, but all I can say is it's connected to, he has an ongoing art project which is loosely called Stransky, covering this world universe he's creating. And there's been plenty of that artwork up online, but he has something ridiculously cool coming that I can't even talk about, because it is so cool. And that is going to be, I think, again, possibly launching later on next year. But between then and now, we've got a bunch of books coming out. So it's frankly exhausting just thinking about it.
It sounds it.
But it's all great stuff, and we're really lucky because it is almost all creator owned. We continue to work with franchises. I'm working with DreamWorks at the moment on some work, King Julian stuff. It's part of their Netflix series stuff, and we do still work in that world, but increasingly we are being given the opportunities to do our creator-owned stuff at the forefront. I think we feel immensely grateful that we get those chances, and hopefully the folks finding our work are enjoying what we're producing, and they're seeing that we are trying to keep that quality level extremely high. And we're just having a laugh, and we're making funny stuff, the kind of things we wish we'd found when we were kids. And the best thing is now there are loads of other creators making that sort of stuff, so I'm getting to be a child all over again, which is great.
You've said that you do book and schools throughout the year. What do you do with the...
So we go into schools all across the country, across the world, teaching kind of creative free thinking, which sounds like a really weird, airy, fairy term, but basically what it means is we run shows where we can play to 300 kids, 500 kids. Numbers don't really matter. It's my brother and I a big old PowerPoint presentation. And what we do is it's very much freeform creativity. The children are inspiring our storytelling on the stage. We are talking about all aspects of creativity, writing, drawing, the merging of the two, everything that spawns off from that. And we're looking at different facets and aspects of creating everything from characters to places to props to, ideas like arbitrary ideas like motivation. For a child, what does that mean in terms of storytelling? But we're relating it to their own experiences, their experiences in school, their experiences in life, the books they're reading, the games they're playing. We keep it perpetually relevant and funny. Fundamentally, these should be funny shows. It's not so much about core teaching; it's about understanding that the creative process is a really exciting endeavour that can be approached from a bunch of different directions.
Yeah.
And in schools, there is a very rote way to learn. And of course, I understand that because they are stat-driven and exam-driven. But schools also recognise the need to allow children to ping from A to Z to P to T, whatever it is. And that's what we offer. We offer the chance to come in and show
the
children
creativity.
that within the world of animation or games or whatever else, you have to think differently. You have to look at the world through slightly different eyes. Yeah. And all we're really doing is opening up that opportunity. But it's great fun. We have been doing that for about 6 years now.
Right.
And we probably visit 3 schools a month, every month. And we'll continue to do for probably forever, because it's an amazing way to meet the next generation of readers, writers and creators, and hopefully inspire them to greater heights.
Right. One final thing.
Yes.
Where can people find you on social media?
Of course, you need to be able to find it. You can get us, our blog is the most updated thing you can find. If you punched in www.theetheringtonbrothers.blogspot.com, we post up 4 times a week, every single week, new art, new work. All of our announcements are on there. We're on Twitter at Etherington Bros, so Etherington Bros. We would have had brothers, but we couldn't get the letters. They wouldn't give you the letters. So at Etherington Bros. We're on Instagram under Etherington Brothers, and you'll probably just find our work pretty much everywhere. But you can get hold of us through Twitter any old time. We always check that, and we're always responding to our fans and stuff like that. So easy to find.
That is brilliant. Thank you very much for the interview.
Absolute pleasure.
Brilliant.
Cheers, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Awesome.